Hey, what's up? I'm Andy, and you're watching The Nihilistic Melancholic, and I might just change the name of that in the future. But you're here to watch my rants and my raves and whatnot, so here we go. Here goes nothing. So, a lot of people are talking about this shooter and the one in Canfield Mountain. And if some of you guys may or may not know, I live in the area, and I mountain bike on that mountain every other weekend. So I know that area pretty well. I know exactly the area where he started the fire, and I know the circumstances a lot better revolving around this case. You know, yesterday I made a video saying that I thought that maybe he had been MK Ultra'd. I no longer think that. As more evidence came out, more stuff started coming out, I started seeing the bigger picture to what's going on here, the media manipulation, why this story is important. So, the shooting happened on the 24th anniversary of an incident that happened out here in Coeur d'Alene, where because of a seizure from the FBI, the fire department burned up a Aryan Nations compound on July 29th, 2001. You can look that up. And what happened was they're trying to link this kid to that incident. Now, the kid's 20 years old. He wasn't even born or has no recollection. He has no possible recollection of this incident ever happening. But I was right about the PSYOP part. The PSYOP is going to be them tying him into this incident, somehow saying that he was getting revenge for this, and then, or they're trying to say that he was active in that sort of, that he was maybe active in an Aryan Nations thing. Do not be surprised if they try to keep running that. I just watched a video from the New York Post where they said exactly that he was trying to exact revenge on that incident. And it couldn't be further from the truth, okay? It was more like the kid lost it, okay? He was living in his car out there in the forest. Where he was at is a parking lot that the cops don't frequent at all. It's out in the woods a little bit on a forest road. And across the road is a shooting range. It's called Fernan Shooting Range. And so the kid started the fire probably doing homeless stuff, okay? Because he was sleeping in his car, he was homeless, and he's probably using drugs, to be honest with you. To be, you know, that's the truth. And he got into a confrontation with the fire department over his car being in the way. And so he more or less lost it at that moment, lost his mind, grabbed a shotgun. Mind, he was shooting slugs, okay? Grabbed a shotgun and shot the fire department guys, and ended up killing two and wounding a third. And then he climbed up a tree and got into a standoff with the police when they showed up. They don't know if he took his own life or if they shot him. But either way, the fire was not some elaborate plan to get the cops and the fire to show up. He wasn't thinking that far, okay? He was more or less out of his mind, probably even having a psychotic episode. Drugs were more than likely involved. But to tie him into some sort of racist group of people is absolutely asinine and ridiculous. I'm going to tell you guys that right now. That there is no possible way that they could try to tie this into it. But they're going to. The psyop of this is going to be them trying to say what his motive was when there really was no motive. And a lot of times people fill in the gaps with their imagination with things like that, especially the news, which is sad because instead of actually doing any journalism, they just sort of assume some things about the case. The kid was not, and I say kid because he was 20, and my opinion is you're not even fully an adult as a man, I believe, until you're like 26 or 27. That's my opinion, and that's because your frontal lobe doesn't develop until you're about that age. And so this kid was young, you know, and he didn't quite understand consequences to his actions quite yet, and so he decided to go on a rampage, and that's it. There's nothing more to be said than that, okay? It's sad what happened, but for us to assume anything more than that is asinine and ridiculous, like I said. And I want people to just kind of be aware and sort of pay attention to how the news plays this out over the next week. The more the information that comes out, you're going to start seeing a whole lot of nonsense. You know, we couldn't find a manifesto. Yeah, that's what the sheriff said in the press briefing, that I couldn't find a manifesto. Well, you know why? Because there was no manifesto. The kid snapped. It's that simple. You know, and I started thinking too, I said, well, what if he just had like a psychotic breakdown and the whole goal for him was to just start a fire? He just was trying to light the hillside on fire. Maybe that was the end goal here, you know. But as far as multiple shooters go, I don't see that being a possibility either, based on the simple fact that he was out there camping. What, did they have a whole militia camped out there? That wouldn't have happened. You wouldn't have been able to do it. It's too steep a terrain for one, and for two, somebody would have saw you. Too many people frequent that mountain. So, yeah, but what I want to also talk about in this video is the type of society that is creating kids like this, where they're homeless at 20 years old. They don't have any family or friends to turn to, which is a big thing, and I'm going to talk a bit more about that. The isolation that our society seems to be going through, that I don't know of anybody right now that has a lot of friends that was so-called popular, that was such a big deal that when I was in high school, being popular, being liked by people. That's important. It makes you feel good on the inside when people enjoy your presence and when you're liked, but people don't hang out anymore. This little Black Mirror device, this thing I'm talking into right now, this thing has ultimately destroyed social connection in a lot of different ways. It's done worse than that. You know, you gotta sit here and think about things like, what kind of feed was on this kid's algorithm? What was he feeding his brain on a daily basis? You know, what was he ingesting drugs and then scrolling for hours watching the Gaza Strip get blown up? You know, was he watching videos of firefighters? You know, like a whole playlist of videos on YouTube of firefighters committing felonies? I mean, what was his motivation? You know, I worry more about the society that we've created and the isolation, and I only see things getting worse. This is why I'm nihilistic. You know, why I'm very, very much black-pilled towards society. I very much see this as going a lot worse, and for several reasons. The cost of living is only going to go up. Jobs are only going to stagnate. If anything, AI is deflationary, therefore labor is going to get cheaper. So you're going to get paid less as the cost of living goes up. And then you're going to have more and more people more and more isolated with these social devices. So you're going to have more and more mental health crises. Because, you know, Maslow's hierarchy puts social connection up there. It's very important to have friends and family and people that you can love and talk to and communicate with. This kid, his mom had a restraining order against him, and his dad lived in Arizona, so chances are he probably didn't have any family to turn to. And at 20 years old, that's sad. You know, you should have a bright future ahead. You should have the ability to stay at mom and dad's house at 20 years old and go to college or have a job or something. You know, to just be homeless at 20, and then for them to snap, to be at that level of mental distress, to snap like that. I worry more about the society we're making, you know, and just so you guys know, his political affiliation does not mean a thing. Okay? We shouldn't care what his parents' political affiliation was. And, you know, and the other thing we shouldn't care about is his post on social media. Okay, look, if you lived in Idaho and you have friends out here or family out here, you do any kind of social anything out here in Idaho, chances are you go out hunting at some point in your life out here. It's a big part of this community. People love hunting. You name it, okay? There's a lot of open, wild terrain out here. I explore it a lot. I've been out in the wilderness quite a bit. It's beautiful out here. And there's not a lot of people, so there's a lot of wilderness. And hunting's a big thing. The kid had posted a balaclava with camouflage paint. Typically, it's the garb you would wear going out like turkey hunting or you know, deer hunting doesn't really matter because deers don't see color. But with turkey, I guess at least you want to be camouflaged. To be honest with you, I've never even been hunting, so I don't know. So somebody correct me in the comments. I don't care. But either way, it's a big part of this community. If the kid had on a balaclava mask and camouflage on, it was probably when he was out hunting and enjoying his life. That's probably why he posted it. You know, I just I worry about the direction that especially young men, you know, because nobody's dating right now. Nobody's even having sex. So not even having accidental babies. Women and couples are staving off relationships altogether. You've got this MGTOW thing. You've got women just deciding that they're too good for people. that they want a 10.5 out of 10 stars, and nothing less will suffice them. There's serious problems. I could get into it how I think relationships are messed up, and I know how to fix all this. I have a solution for all of these problems in our modern day society. It starts with normalizing putting this thing down, forgetting your phone. We are so addicted to these things and we don't talk about it enough. We want to talk about addiction. We are normalizing the addiction of the cell phone. It's okay because the corporations make money on it, so I guess it's okay, right? As long as the legal business makes money on it, then who cares? It's really sad to think about when you think about what's allowed and how disgusting this is. I mean, you guys are like these corporations that produce cell phones and algorithms and social media. They're creating something that is more addicting than crack cocaine. How many times a day do you check your phone? I got another question. How many times have you ever thought about this? How many hours in your life you have wasted scrolling or flipping through posts, reading going back and checking your status to see how many likes you got? How much time out of your life have you wasted doing this? And what has it amounted to? If you had a business that relied on social media, I understand. I do. Okay, I need social media. I have this app, the business app through Meta. You can post on your Instagram and your Facebook without having the app on your phone. So I post every bit of work I do, but I do not have the ability to go back and look and see how many likes I got. I can't read I can read the comments through this app too, but I usually don't. I keep my mind free from all the negativity and stress, because somebody could say something completely negative on there. I wouldn't see it. Most negative things online now, I just choose not to see it, and it doesn't affect my day from day to day. And you guys know, people comment negative crap all the time on any social media post, on anything. If you have something that's public, you're going to get a negative comment. It doesn't matter. You could have cured cancer. You're going to get somebody on there saying it costs too much and complain about it. Or you're just a greedy business. You name it. You could be solving real problems or be the best amazing artist in the world and put out the most amazing shit. You're still going to get a hater somewhere. It's just life. Now, people didn't have this ability to do this, before the internet. People always talk about too how the 90s were so much better. It's for so many reasons, and mainly it's the cell phone. I mean, we all subconsciously know what the problem is, but we all subconsciously are so addicted to this dopamine slot machine game device that we can't put it down. So what we need to do to combat this as a community, what we need to do is we need to normalize putting your phone in the car when you go places. Right now, I already know what went through your head. You thought, what if there's an emergency? I need my phone for an emergency. That's the brainwashing. How many other people have phones? Like, say you're going out to dinner with 3 or 4 people. I guarantee you 2 people at the table have a cell phone that's charged. If you leave yours there. Even if all 4 of you left your cell phones in the car, somebody in that building has a cell phone that's charged. Or there's a landline in the building for the business. You see what I'm saying? You do not need your cell phone for emergencies. There really is no logic to that whatsoever. The more I think about it, the more I start to think, yeah, I really don't need my cell phone. What do I need it for? Delete the social media off your phone so you can't scroll through it. Do not go back to a smartphone unless it's free. That's my philosophy. I don't buy smartphones. I've never bought one. I've only used free phones. This is an S24 I'm using this to make this video on. It was free through T-Mobile. So yeah, I don't give a shit. It's free. It takes a good photo. That's all I need it for. My phone is black and white. I took the color screen off. My screensavers turned the screen off. I got rid of all the exciting things with my phone, so it's not bright, shiny, exciting. I'm getting ready to purchase an MP3 player because, I watched another video on this cell phone thing, and this guy perfectly explained it, what the problem is with the cell phone. Some of you might know what a Swiss Army knife is, and if you don't, I'll just explain it to you. It's a knife with about 50 different tools attached to it. It's not just a pocket knife, okay, that you can take the blade out, right, like this. Like a normal blade, right, I carry, this is my blade, right, a normal blade flips out, okay. Well, Swiss Army blade has like 50 blades over here, a saw, something to floss your teeth with. I mean, a million tools, okay. Not one of those tools attached to that knife does its job very well. That's why Swiss Army knives are sold in boutique stores. That's why they're not sold at serious, outdoor stores. They're not considered serious knives. Okay, they're not even a good tool. Well, you got to start thinking of your phone like that. Okay, because your phone does everything, right? It does your camera, it does your social media, it does your emails, it does your camera, right? Well, let's think about this, okay? You can get a much better camera. You can get a much better camcorder to record your videos. I'm going to eventually switch over to that and have like a permanent station to do this if this channel gets big enough. I'm going to buy an MP3 player and download all my music so I don't have to stream music ever again. So I don't have to worry about having service either, because it's Idaho. We lose service around here in these mountains. Just what happens. I already have a decent camera that I use. I have an action camera that I use mountain biking. I can take really good photos with it as well. So do I really need a nice expensive phone when I have all these other tools that do better than what the phone can offer? No, I don't need it. So you got to start reprogramming that mind to think differently about your phone. I recently just did this, and this is the reason why I decided to start this YouTube, was because I decided instead of the phone costing me time and energy, I'm going to dedicate time and energy into making me money, at least. I do want to make this YouTube thing work. I'm not going to lie, like I really do. I think it would be a nice, easy side hustle. I'm going to be totally honest with all of you guys. But that's the sad thing, is that life costs so damn much that you need about 3 or 4 side hustles to even make it. In one of my other videos, I talked about becoming self-employed as quick as you can. And I think that with the AI coming in and with everything coming into the picture with the job market, I think that it would behoove you to try to do that as fast as possible. Now, some of you are not made to be self-employed. I get that. Some of you are just made to be employees, but more men than women were made to be self-employed. And I know that's going to sound sexist to some people, but men just make better leaders. I mean, statistically speaking, yes. Just like men are stronger than women, statistically speaking, yes. Okay? And it comes from evolution, men organize better than women too. It comes from hunting. We are absolute predators, and human beings are made to organize, make tools, and to lead, take the charge. This is what men were meant to do. And so it is your job from evolution to be self-employed, to take charge. It's scary going from employee to self-employed, and it's extremely stressful. But once you get past that point, when you no longer work for somebody else and you make your own schedule, it is worth 2 paychecks by itself. Last week, I worked 4 days, 4 tens. I don't really count my hours though. Again, I'm self-employed, and I ended up making about $2,000. I mean, I'm not like, I'm not rich, but I'm not suffering. I make decent money doing what I do. But as soon as you also understand that the amount your paycheck is the amount that you want to work, it's over with. You're going to be so driven. People are lacking purpose these days, and I do believe maybe having a business is some sort of self-purpose. In the 1950s and 60s, if you look at all the small businesses, they were all the person's last name. It'd be like Smith's car dealership, right? Or say Lawanda's hair salon. Okay, it would be just like a family, and it would be known that if you had a business like that, that you were most likely going to be passing it down to your kids, and they could sell it or maintain the business. That was like the thing, that was what you did. My grandpa had his own construction company, same thing. He ended up, by the time my dad became an adult, my dad went his separate way, did his thing, but either way, it was an option for him. And so my plan too is to have my tattoo shop available for my daughter when she turns 18, around that age, and start teaching her how to do it when she's in high school. I don't see the harm in that, and I think that's a good thing, and I think that her having some sort of trade when she's an adult, and she's definitely an artist. She's 6 years old now, and all she does is draw. She likes drawing on me with Sharpies. And I let her put makeup on me too, if you're wondering, and paint my toenails. Yes, and you're not a real man unless you do that. So, yeah, where we're at with society and turning the ship around, because I think we've lost the plot some time ago. I think the best way to get the plot back is to try to have a sense of purpose in your life, that being self-employed. I think the new social currency should be how much you're not on your phone. How often are you not on your phone and actually engaging with people in conversation? I think that's going to be the new social currency. Because it's getting bad out there. It's getting annoying. You see people everywhere in public just face buried in their phone, not even paying attention to their surroundings. I mean, you see it all the time, videos of people tripping over things and falling into a pond or something, or because they're not paying attention, they're on their phone. And it's like I sit in traffic and I look over at people driving and I see them at the stoplight doing this, and I can see their head tilted down. It's like, I know you're on your phone, and I know you're probably going to be delayed on pushing the gas pedal when it turns green. And 9 times out of 10, I'm right about that. It's getting annoying. It's becoming a hindrance. It's literally like if everybody smoked crack throughout the day, all day long. I mean, because essentially that's what this is, right? Like a little hit of dopamine all day, just 5-minute hits of dopamine all day long. Because that's essentially what this is. It's a 5-minute, 2-minute, 30-second high. Dopamine used to be a survival tactic for cavemen. It used to be, oh, you got that deer, you killed that deer, good, now your family can eat for a week. You're not going to starve. It used to be a tool for our survival. The rich have figured out how to monetize it, how to extract every bit of it. There's a reason why when you scroll, why it simulates a casino machine. Well, why the videos, when they pop up, well, it's a gamble. What am I going to get? 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, you're looking for a certain feeling or a certain type of video or something that your brain seems to want. And you know what I'm talking about. Like you might be scrolling through YouTube, keep going until you get to some long podcast that you want to put on. You want to put on something about archaeology, let's say, or any kind of science field that you might be interested in. Or maybe you just want to go to bed and put on shorts and wind the brain down. But whatever it is you're experiencing emotions in a very rapid motion. This is why I don't watch a lot of short form content. I was on TikTok for a little while. I was banned like 9 times, and I figured it was actually the best medicine was to just stop going on there. I started seeing it for what it was. And I do not engage in short form content because it literally, when they say brain rot, they're not exaggerating what it does to you. Okay, so you're watching short form content and it's drip feeding little hits of dopamine, making you feel happy, sad, emotional. You go through the entire kitchen cabinet of emotions in a short period of time. An hour, 2 hours. What does that do to a person? Well, I'll tell you what it does. It fries your memory. This is why people can't remember people's names, places. Your brain was never meant to process that much information. It was never designed to intake that much information about the planet. I mean, you were never meant to know the atrocities that are happening over in the Middle East right now. You were never meant to know that. You were never meant to see all of the horrible things that go on in such frequency. It used to be back in the 60s, you had a newspaper and you had like 3 news channels on the TV, okay? You literally could only absorb so much information that way. And the same thing goes with communicating face to face. When you watch fast videos like that, you're absorbing more information than your brain can handle. This is what the dopamine burnout thing is. Why people can get up first thing in the morning, watch a video, 2 hours, 3 hours of videos, and then go back to bed. You're burned out, And like I said, I think about that all the time. How many hours have I wasted in my life doing that? And how much better could my life be if I had spent those hours putting it into my business, or into my craft, or into a side hustle, or into a anything, anything. It would have been 10 times better in the long run. You know, I'll to end this video. Some of you guys play video games. I play a little bit. I can only get about a half an hour to an hour in before my brain says go do something productive, and I have to turn it off. I just can't. My brain just can't handle it anymore. So, video games. A lot of people will spend hours. They'll ditch work for a new video game. They'll spend hours getting their characters' stats all the way maxed out. Spend all these hours doing that, and there's literally no return with that. You have nothing to show for it other than you beat the game. You have bragging rights. That's it. You know, if I had spent that 200 hours that some of these people play in a single game, and that's not even that many, 200 hours on the gym, just imagine how much more ripped I would be. Just imagine how much better shape I would be if I'd spent that 200 hours reading, playing the guitar. By the way, I do play the guitar. But just, I mean, you guys get the point I'm making here. You know, if we could start transforming the way we feel about our phones, if we start treating it like it was a crack addiction, I think society would change.